Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm pleased to rise and speak in support of the principle behind this motion brought forward by the member from Edmonton-Leduc. There's no question financial literacy is extraordinarily important so that Canadians can make fully informed decisions with regards to their financial future. I would also, however, suggest to you that this motion is kind of a half-hearted attempt by this government at moving forward with an important initiative that was begun by the task force, Financial Literacy Task Force, who brought down their report with recommendations 2 years ago. 2 years ago, and the best we were able to get from the government, probably after some considerable hard work and lobbying by the member from Edmonton-Leduc, was a motion that talks about the government moving forward with good intentions. And I would suggest to you that frankly is not good enough. And Mr. Speaker, we are faced in this country at the moment with debt loads, with the average family. The average debt load in the past 10 years has increased twice as fast as incomes. And the rate is 3 times as fast for older Canadians. And I think it's important to bring that up because there's no question that, understanding the rules of the road, understanding what these various financial vehicles, understanding the terms and conditions of credit cards and of various loans and mortgages is important for all of us. But at the moment, we are seeing a situation in this country where older Canadians are experiencing debt levels at historic rates. And we've talked about this over the past number of weeks and months in the House, with the government contemplating extending the eligibility period for OAS from 65 to 67. And I want to take this opportunity to bring to the government's attention the fact that seniors are already seriously struggling to make ends meet. There's an increasing number of seniors who, as a result of losing their jobs, as a result of downsizing of employment, as a result of poor health, are unable to work. At the age of, and the figures show that around 62, there seems to be a bulge of seniors that are finding themselves unemployed. And they are piecing things together with credit cards, with personal loans, trying to make ends meet until they reach the age of 65, when they are eligible for the GIS and for Canada Pension GIS and Old Age Security, Mr. Speaker. And understanding the implications of those credit cards is not going to help those people, because they're trying to just cope. They're trying to keep their head above water. They're trying to maintain what they have, being responsible contributors in their communities for their whole lives. They're not wanting to default. They're not wanting to go into bankruptcy. So they're trying to use every tool available to try to deal. So this measure doesn't help deal with that. I absolutely support the intention provided for in this motion that we make available to Canadians at greater levels, children, people at the whole lifelong learning trajectory, that we make financial literacy important at all levels, and we work with the provincial governments and so on. But we have to recognize in this House, Mr. Speaker, that there are some very critical problems at stake which make even understanding the problems associated with debt levels more important than simply understanding the terms. And I would say that on a matter like credit cards, if the government would do what the former leader of the NDP, Jack Layton, do what he talked about for so many years, which is to bring a cap forward on credit card rates, that single act would do so much for seniors, for average Canadians who are trying to make ends meet. Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about the financial literacy issue more specifically as it relates to the fact that 50% of adult Canadians, and this was information provided for by the task force, 50% of adult Canadians struggle with simple tasks involving math and numbers. So when you're talking about putting information out on a website, or when you're talking about sending information out in pamphlets or on billboards or whatever, you've got to recognize that, as the task force identified, that over 50% of Canadians are having basic literacy challenges as it is. And that needs to be taken into consideration when it comes to the means by which we deliver that question of literacy. 42% of adult Canadians struggle with reading. 20% of Canadian households do not have access to the internet. They are not only are there problems with literacy, but at least 20% of Canadians don't even have access through computers or to the internet, Mr. Speaker, an issue that needs to be considered when we consider the means by which we move forward with things like literacy programs. I said when I began that this was a weak attempt, frankly, of implementing some very important recommendations of the task force, and I want to highlight a couple of things that the government could do, should have done already, and could be doing right now. A couple of key recommendations: working with the provinces and territories to integrate financial literacy into all levels of our education system, primary, secondary, post-secondary, and adult learning curriculums. It's key, and it has to start now and start young, Mr. Speaker. The government should be implementing financial literacy through key programs that already exist, including EI, OAS, CPP, Youth Employment Strategy, Urban Aboriginal Strategy, and the Immigrant Settlement and Adaptation Program. Those are areas where the government has contact with many Nova Scotians, with many Canadians, some of which are Nova Scotians, and there's an opportunity to present information in clear language format so that people are more likely to understand it. And I get kind of a chuckle out of that when I think about the problems that we've been dealing in my office in Dartmouth Cole Harbour, of people even getting access to some of these offices. The backlog in the Service Canada for EI, for CPP, the fact that they've been able to simply get a recording on the phone and are having trouble getting a response. The government should implement financial literacy component to the Canada Student Loan Program for students receiving funding. And finally, the government should intensify efforts to raise awareness with regards to financial fraud among vulnerable Canadians. Those are key recommendations that the task force came up with. The government could have been moving on those already. They should be moving on those. They're very specific strategies, Mr. Speaker. And I would urge the member who has sponsored this motion, a motion which we support, to continue to work with his colleagues to try to make sure that some real specific actions begin to take place on an important initiative, which was the task force and its findings. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Resuming debate, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for